welcome back to Wendy's Colouring, and this video, I don't actually think I've done this video before, but I thought I'd kind of give a sum up of the equipment and materials that I've enjoyed using for 2022. I'll probably continue using most of this stuff. I now have got a lot of stuff out and my desk is probably going to constantly get things falling over because as soon as I move something I'm going to knock something over because I've got too much stuff out. I've not counted them. I don't know how many will be in my list. They're in no particular order. I just thought I'd go through the kind of things that I use regularly. I talk about them a lot, but I don't necessarily show them a lot. This I have showed quite a bit. This is my Super Monster pencil case that has a lot of stuff in. So much stuff in, it's probably not going to fit very well. Might actually be better that way around. Just move my mat, let me get it back straight because it will bug me otherwise. So this massive pencil case, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea because it's one of those that has threes in. I have light fast in. If I'm honest, my light fast are not my favourite. They're good pencils, they're good quality. I'm not a great oil pencil user, and I think that's what it is for me. I don't enjoy the sensation of them on paper. I do still use them. They're in here because I use them, but in the main, this pencil case, I use my luminance. As you can see, I'm in the process of using my luminance. I've got them all stacked. Ooh, can I reach? Just about in my Artex holder because I'm in the middle of doing a page in one of my Hannah Carlson books as we speak. So I've got quite a lot out, as you can see. I have my pencil cases set up always the same way. I think somebody did ask me about this last month, but yeah, all my pencil cases, I always do the same thing. I have some sticker paper that you can just bung through the printer, but I literally cut it in strips. Then as I'm putting them in the order that I want my pencils, normally whatever order you swatch them in is what I generally tend to do. I literally swatch them and number them. Sometimes, depending on the brand, I'll put the name on. Obviously with luminance, reading the names are pretty much impossible, so there's no point putting the names on the swatch because I won't be reading the names when I'm trying to put them back in. I'll be trying to squint at the terrible small numbers instead. But in the main, because I use my luminance so much, I have a good idea where they're back. You know, a lot of my favourite colours are in here and I know where they live without looking really. But that's how I always set my pencils up. So my luminance are in here. As you can see, some of them are looking very sad. I've got a lot on extenders at the moment, but they're all there. And they sit next to my Holbeins, which are also looking a bit sad. Excuse me while I move some tat from the front of my desk before it falls up. If I'm honest, if I want to colour, these are my first reach, these two. They are my pencil loves. They're too expensive, I totally agree, but I love the feel of them. I love the sensation of using them. Holbein, I love the brightness in the palette. It's just so vivid. They have pretty much, I do love a bit of bright colour, and they really do have vivid, bright, strong colour. They work so well with the luminance. They kind of pull, you can work over the luminance and pull the colour and blend it. I suppose probably in the same way you would with a Prisma. But yeah, I enjoy my Holbeins. Some of my Holbeins are tiny now, sadly. I think the green's out in my holder, but some of them are looking very sad. Is this my green? Yeah, this is my favourite green colour. It's this one, 291. And it is literally, I'll show you how much I like it. This much. That's how much I like it. And I'm still like, nope, you're not going anywhere yet. There's still some green in there. I'm keeping you. You've got work to do still. So that's how much I like that pencil. That even at that point, still got work to do. It's going nowhere. I have used them to death. I do need to order some replacements, but they're not cheap, are they? So for the moment, I am having to tolerate. There's another one there. Can't see it because it's off the screen, but yeah, that pink is also tiny, but it's not done yet. Poor luminance. Fluorescent was the word. My brain is just not working today. Fluorescent, sadly, I don't use them a lot. A few people were saying, oh, you should use them for light effects. I'm sure you're right, but I will try. But yeah, they are, this case is my favourite pencils, I can't lie. I know they're expensive, they're not for everyone. I do like some cheaper ones, I'm going to show you those as well in a second. But yeah, when I'm tired and I just want to do some colouring and I don't want to think about it so much, I just want to literally do it, this is my reach for pencil case. I don't take it anywhere. It doesn't travel, it literally sits with me in here, which is why the three things don't bother me so much really, because it's not like I'm lifting it or it can fall away. And yeah, naff stickers on it as well. Let me lift it out of the way because it does weigh quite a bit. So they are my undoubted favourites, and I'm sure probably if you watch me you'll realise that. Excuse me while I reach for other pencil cases. This one has been a recent favourite, I think. As you will know, recently I did get the large Artex pencil sets. I've used them quite a few colourings already. There's another one this month. I've just finished a page with these ones. I have had a couple of breakages. As you can see, my red is pretty small. Yeah, it's not too bad, but I think it's a green, isn't it? Yeah, a green. I had two that kept snapping, but in hindsight, I think this was to blame. A few people did say, "Oh, have you checked your sharpener?" And it did make me think about it. And I did notice when I was sharpening my luminance, actually, which obviously the wood in those is beautiful, that the wood in those was ripping a little bit, and I thought, no, they're right. Hence why I have swapped to another favourite, only just a favourite because it's only just arrived. Shouldn't really put it in my 2022 pile because I haven't been using it in 2022, but certainly I have noticed these sharpen wonderfully in this in a way that they weren't in this, and I wish I'd realised that before I'd sharpened a couple of these today. My chili red, sad. Obviously the downside is loose stock, isn't it? I'm moaning about my Holbeins, but I can get loose stock in the UK, thankfully. Thank goodness, because I'd be crying without them. But obviously these are going to be to replace, I don't, perhaps someone with a 72 can tell me, is chili red in the 72? Because I do not know, because I don't have the 72. And the other green, which is the green that I want, dark teal, is it? Hold on while I get my microscope out to try and read it. Dark teal, yeah, is the other one that sadly, we had some snapping moments. But I think these colour really beautifully, and they're not the cheapest of pencils. Obviously there's cheaper sets out there, definitely. But they are much cheaper than the other two sets that I've just been looking at. And I think I like the feel of these, particularly on Amazon paper. And that I think is important. I have quite a few Amazon books. I'm not a lover of photocopying it, putting it onto better paper, having a piece outside of a book. I want to work in the book. I like having them in the book, enclosed in the book. The book is all part of it for me somehow. I think that's important for me. I'm not saying I'll never do a PDF, but I do prefer a book. So having colours that work well on Amazon paper is important, and these layer quite nicely on Amazon paper. I think the colour palette for the size of the set is really good. I don't find myself thinking, oh, I wish I had that colour that's in my other set, or I'm missing that colour. I don't know this set as well, and certainly when I'm trying to colour, it takes me a bit longer to find what I want in this set. And obviously you're changing, you're compromising on some respects, but I think this is a very comprehensive colour palette. I really like the feel of them. They don't suit all papers, I think that I have noticed. As you can see, I've teamed them with my Colour sets, because the colour palette seems to work quite well, and the texture of these seems to suit these as well. I wouldn't say that they're exactly the same, but they're similar. The Colour ones, I think the leads are a little bit thinner. The advantage is you get finer points, so when you want a bit more detail, I find they're sometimes a bit more useful than the Artex ones. But having these together in one set works really well for me. And they're both good pencils, similar prices, I think, in terms of, I would call them a mid-priced set, really. My other mid-priced set that I do use quite a lot, although is starting to look a bit sadder. Hold on while I swap them. Is my Artex pencils. As you can see, I have had some issues with my Artex pencils. My brain fail. Going absolutely bonkers. I don't mean Artex at all. Arteza is what I mean. I don't know what's up with my head today. But yeah, my set is a fairly old set, and as you can see, I wouldn't say I've heavily used these. I've used these a fair amount. These are my original set of pencils. As you can see, there are mixed sizes left. But yeah, there is very little print left on these. They just seem to rub off straight away. And trying to put them away when you've got hardly any numbers left on them is very infuriating. I like these Arteza pencils. Again, they work quite nicely on Amazon paper. I quite like the colour palette. I do find I'm looking for colours a bit more with this Arteza set than maybe the Artex one, but there are a few more pencils in the Artex one, so maybe that makes sense. The problem we have in the UK, and I do not know what's going on with Arteza in the UK, we just don't seem to be getting any stock in the UK. I think these full sets did pop up very briefly before Christmas, but it was before Christmas and I wasn't in a I can shell out big money for a new set of pencils for myself point before Christmas, so I couldn't get them then. And sure enough, I've looked this week and they're out of stock again. We haven't had any of the new pastel pencils. We haven't had the metallic pencils. I noticed there's some nice metallic brush pens. We haven't had those in the UK. I've been wanting those dual hybrid looking gel pens from Arteza all year now. Not been in stock all year. So I don't know what's going on. I'm loath to buy any more Arteza pencils because I just don't know what they're doing in the UK. Arteza, what's going on with that? But they are a good medium priced set. I've used them a lot. I like the colour palette. Again, it's quite a vivid colour palette. I like the lay down of them. You can layer quite a bit with these. I think they're a nice pencil. They'll team with quite a few other different brands as well if you want to mix and match. As you can see in here, I have mine sat with my Erotigens, which seems quite odd because these are quite hard in comparison. But the colour palettes really kind of complement each other, so I do have these sat together. Erotigens are a bit of an odd pencil, really. I'm not sure. I'm not for a second saying these are my super favourite. They just happen to be in this case, so I'll show them. But I use them with these, and the palettes work quite nicely. They have some quite unusual colours in them, but if I'm honest, they're probably too hard for me. I don't love a hard pencil, definitely. But yeah, mid-price buy. Artezas I use quite a lot. I do like them as well. Ooh. Hold on, I'll have to get up and get the next thing. I'm pausing. I'm back. And a cheaper buy. I don't think you can knock Brut Squares, can you really? I don't use mine a huge amount. I probably should use them more than I do. I've tended to use them in my Clara Markova books actually, but I think these are a really great buy. Keep your eye on these. You can get them from kind of here in the UK. They've been down 25, something like that. Not for a while certainly. They seem to be sitting about 36-ish at the moment, but for the money, these are a great little set. The Brut Squares. You've got, again, good colour palette. I'm not a huge oil pencil lover, but I quite like these, and if these were all I had, I'd quite happily work with these. As you can see, I've not used mine a huge amount. I think they do last a lot because I tend to use more waxy pencils. I think you tend to go through them a bit quicker, and the beauty of these, because they are oil based, is that they are a bit harder, so they do last you quite a long time. So certainly for a cheaper buy, I've done my own swatch. I don't use this one that's in here. I don't know why I've kept it really, because it's who I am. But yeah, for a cheaper buy, I think you can't go better than at Brut Squares. They're a good set. Good colour palette, great value for money. I think it's a lovely set. Then, moving on. Ooh, don't fall off. Pencil cases, I can't reach where I put them when I'm sat. And what can you do? Now, let me get my other thing I want. Watercolour pencils. My two favourites, and I have used them quite a lot this year, are undoubtedly my Albert Duras. Again, I'm in the middle of doing that page in Joanna Basford, so I've got a little pot with the ones in that I was using. So my Albert Duras, I think, are a great little colour pencil, watercolour pencil, and I just started last year buying the little Caran d'Ache Museum Aquarelles that I can never say. These I really love. They're just a little bit softer than the Duras. Don't get me wrong, I love the Duras. I think the palette's nice. They need some really good skin tones. That would be my criticism of it. The skin tones that are in here are quite pinky. Need something a bit flatter in colour. I'm hoping when I get a bit more of these that maybe these have got a good or a better range of skin tones in them. We'll see. At the moment I can't afford any more. This is what I've got. I love them. They're beautiful. But yeah, watercolour pencils. Depends what you want really. I don't love my polychromos as a pencil. I have them. I don't use them a huge amount. I do like these, but I do find them heavy going on my hand. They are quite hard, and if you're using them dry a lot, I find that a bit heavy going. These are just a touch softer, but they work great together. They both dissolve beautifully on the page. Really pleased with them. I've used them quite a bit this year. They are most definitely my favourite watercolour pencils, even over Inktense I would say. Definitely over my Derwents, definitely over my Aquatones. They just, the colour palette, the way they behave, yeah, they are most definitely my favourite watercolour pencils. Use them a lot as a base. They're really handy in that respect. Other stuff that I've got, I have sneakily pulled out another pencil because this is a pencil that lives literally like this on my desk. Obviously these are a small set, these Derwent drawings. They are quite an unusual colour palette. They're really useful colour palette, and I use them with pretty much all my pencils that I have because they just complement all those other sets from all those other brands. But yeah, really useful pencil, good quality. I really wish they'd do a massive set of these. They are my total favourite. You've probably heard me say it before, but those are also on there and hit favourites. The other things that I've pulled out that I would say are definitely my favourites for the year. I feel like I should be being paid by Artex, but yeah, I'm really enjoying their products this year. I love the pencils, but definitely these markers I'm using them on every single page that I work on, every single one. I don't tend to use them for backgrounds. See how messy they are when I chuck them back in. Don't care, it's upside down, whatever. I use them for backgrounds, not so much. Mainly for line work and adding in some highlights. If you've used something and you can't get coloured pencil highlights in there anymore because of how much you've worked it, these I find really useful. I like the fact that they're a brush. This set are waterproof ones, and I think there is a second set of these, but I suspect they're very similar colours to these, which is why I haven't got them. But this is the kind of lighter pastel based set that I have. I'm using these again pretty much every single drawing that I do, either for highlights or just adding some details or getting rid of some line work. I use them a lot. These two are not waterproof. Sometimes they do need more than one coat. They're not completely opaque, but that doesn't bother me. Even my, what are those other ones called? I always forget. My Deca brush by Karen. You know, they are an expensive paint. They're an expensive brush. Some of those colours still need two coats. That's the reality of it. So I don't think it matters how much you're paying. Some colours you just do need more than one coat, and I normally find that two coats pretty much does what I'm looking for, because most of the time I don't want to completely obliterate the line. I still want to see a little bit of it. But yeah, these are, again, super favourite from this year. But again, probably you've already noticed that. Something that I did get last year and I've started to use a lot more are my Tombows. So this is literally all I have. I have 2 sets that my family kindly bought me, so don't roll off. So I have, I think these were Brights, if I'm remembering. I actually quite like these little boxes they came in. I store them flat. Tombow expert, should I be storing these flat? I'm never sure. I think it's the dual I tend to, but I think these were Brights. Obviously water based. You've got brush, you've got nib. I tend to use the brush more, but for books that you can't use an alcohol marker in, but you perhaps just want to speed up your journey a little bit, they are so useful. So I've got Brights and I've got, I think these are pastels. So that's the selection I've got. And then I think I got like a calligraphy set or something like that that had these extra colours in. I'm finding this set does quite a lot for me without adding a huge amount to it. I did use it in my Tomislav book because that's such a complicated pages in there, and you just want to get some flat colour on, just start yourself off. They didn't bleed through. You can let it dry and then you're fine to work over it with your coloured pencils. So I do find them useful. I don't have any of the hoo-hoo versions. I'm kind of thinking I'll just buy a loose stock of colours that I think I'll use. But so far I've kept to just using these, seeing how they go. I do like them. I find them really useful. They're not something I use every colouring, but when you need them, they really do fill that hole. Metallic watercolours. Obviously, I do really love my metallic watercolours. My favourite purchase this year, without a shadow of a doubt, was my Renaissance colours. They're not in here, but the little swatches. I bought, I think it's the Crown Jewels set, if it wants to focus. Come on, you know you want to focus, really. It's not too bad, is it? But yeah, I think this is a beautiful set of paints. I think I got this January, February, so earlier on in the year, but I've used it quite a lot in various different colourings, and it's just the quality of them is so beautiful. They are lovely paints. Thankfully, I still have quite a bit of them left, so they're mixed about in various different places in my palette, but I think most of them are down in this row here. And I have a lot of metallics. I love using the metallics, but they are just top quality paints. It's just the price that scares me a little bit. But yeah, I've loved using them. I've not regretted it. Couldn't afford any new ones, but I'm hoping at some point I can. And then obviously I did put my toe into getting some Calero paints. I hadn't had any before that this year, and I've got this selection. Yeah, these are lovely as well. They're slightly different. I don't think they're quite as shiny as Renee's ones, but they're still really top quality paints, and I think I'll use these quite a lot. I've used them quite a fair bit already, but I'd like to use them a little bit more. But certainly metallic paints are a fave. They will continue to be a fave, even though I have more metallic paint than I probably realistically am ever going to need. I will still keep collecting and making some of my own, because it does, I wouldn't have this many if I'd just bought them, like literally all that side of the palette I've made. So, you know, I've only actually bought this bottom section, and some of these are my Sketch and Story, like they think these are Sketch and Story subscriptions, so some of them I didn't actually pick myself. All of these are Sketch and Story, actually, now I'm thinking about it. So metallic watercolours, key in my work. I use it quite a bit. I do enjoy the difference of using a different medium occasionally. And the other thing I've started to use a bit more this year, which I don't think I did use last year at all, just knock them over, is acrylic paint. So I've been enjoying my Arteza craft acrylic colours. I think I just got, is there 12? It's either 12 or 15 colours in a box. I like these. They dry matte, so if you want to work over them with something else, like I can put metallic watercolors over the top of them. Because they're an acrylic, they have a plastic in, so they will be a complete seal. So you can work over with colour pencil because they're matte, and I've worked over with the metallic watercolours quite often as well. So if it's on a paper that I know won't take the metallic watercolour itself, I will sometimes put a base of acrylic on first, but I like those because they're matte. I've also been using a fair amount of the Pebeo acrylic paint that you can get from Hobbycraft here in the UK. Again, I only buy the matte. I don't like it when it's too shiny, really, and I tend to just buy like strange colours like this from the Pebeo range, because obviously I have the normal colours from my Arteza box, so if I go in there I do buy strange colours as opposed to normal colours. Metallics, I have most definitely been loving the Deco Art Metallics. I used this one recently in a page, and just the shine on these when they're dry. Yeah, it's almost amazed me, really. It was really very vivid, great metallics. So I think I have these in silver, pearl white and gold. And I've also been, again, not something I'd used a huge amount before, but totally Kay's fault, these really. Started with a few of these kind of more effect-based acrylic products, so Galaxy Glitter, the Enchanted. I think I've got one of the Enchanted with glitter in as well that I really quite like. And just when you just want that little bit of something extra, these are quite handy. They're not as easy to get in the UK, but there are a few places online that you can pick them up from. I'm not going to have hundreds of them because you're only putting a tiny bit on when you're using them, and I've got a reasonable collection of them now, but certainly acrylics I've used a lot more this year than I did last year. It was definitely a newer thing that have gone into my practice. And last but not least, really, is gel pens. So this one was bought for me, this little Ahuhu art gel pen, and these I've been using all year on and off. So I have whites in here, that's handy. You've got kind of fluorescence in here. Again, it's not something I would have bought myself, but I've actually used them quite a lot. And then you've got silver and gold in here and a little black in here. And they're not quite a full-sized pen, if I get an equivalent pen out. They are a little bit shorter, but they seem to be lasting really well. It's a handy little pick up and go pack for colours that, yeah, just suit me down. In fact, there you go. You can see the colours a little bit better like that. That just, yeah, just suited me down to the ground. And then this pack most definitely has my most favourite gel pens in. So I have Signo Sparklings in here in pretty much all the colours. I think I've got silver, gold, purple, I think there's a red, I think there's a blue, what else is missing? I think there's a pink actually as well. So I have a full set of those ones. Oh, there's also an orange, missed one out there. And then I have the Pentel Dual Hybrids. I have a good stash of those in here as well. Obviously, lovely pens. Can't even dig them all out. But yeah, I have quite a chunk of those, as you can also see. I'll rest them on there. And then I have some metallics in here in the same kind of line. So the Signo metallics, I don't actually know what they call these. Let's have a look, see if I can see it. Oh, they've just got the colour name on. So it just says bronze. Noble metal, I think is what it says on there. No idea what that means. But yeah, I've got that in kind of a copper, bronze, pink. It's another jewel. Green, gold. Gold's I think is in a slightly bigger nib size. Silver. I've got some whites in those as well. Blue. More pinks for some bizarre reason, and so on. And as you can see, there are some more. I do have a few of these zebra ones. They're not quite as good, but somehow they survived in my pencil case of my best gel pens. But yeah, if I want to add a bit of glitter with a gel pen, this is my pencil case of choice every time for a bit of glitter that's controllable, because they are my goodies. And then, oh, get back in. And then just basic things really, I suppose. Rubber, I can't reach it. Hold on, let me pause. Okay, so now I've reached it. Yeah, I have this eraser. So it has removable ends. You can put a smaller end on it, so you can use the finer rubbers if you want to. Mine is one of the rechargeable ones, which I much prefer. But yeah, they just do the job when you've got a big section that you want to remove. They're just much more efficient than sitting there for hours with your normal rubber. No matter how great these are, this one is a good one, but this is just quicker. It's easier on the hand, it's quicker, and it does the job. And I do like the fact it's rechargeable. There's loads of different branded ones on Amazon. This just happened to be the one when I was looking for them. But yeah, I've been really pleased with this. I use it alongside my Tombow Mono Zero. This does have a fitting that you can put a much smaller rubber in, but when I'm rubbing out little small bits like that, I don't want to make a mistake and take away half of the work that I've just done, so I prefer the manual version of these, because these are much more controllable. You can do little tiny sections, but those I use all the time. Posca white, really important sometimes. When you've worked on a page for quite a long time, sometimes you get to the point where you just can't get any highlights back in, and so Posca white is the most acrylic white, most opaque white of all the whites that I use. I prefer this one, which is the PC1M. I find this much more reliable and predictable than this one, PC1MR. I bought this one to begin with thinking, oh, that's the finest nib, so that'll give you the finest line. But these are just a little bit more uncontrollable. It'll keep stopping, then it'll blob out a load of paint. So as you can see, I've clearly blobbed out something at some point because it's all over it. So yeah, I reach for this one. I don't tend to use this one so much because I just don't trust it, to be honest. And when you want a fine line, this just does it, and it's the most opaque. I do still use the whites out of my Artex ones. They aren't as opaque as these, but sometimes that might be the effect you want. If you didn't want it, you know, super in your face, it depends on what you're trying to do, doesn't it? Other things I use a lot, and I've used a lot all year, are these kind of brush pens with subtle glitter in them. So I have a few of these Nouveau ones that have kind of gold, silver, and kind of like a rose gold coppery tone to them, that are just a clear liquid with some sheen in. They're quite subtle. I do quite like them. And then Spectrum Noir have one as well. I think it's Crystal Sparkle or something like that. Clear Crystal Sparkle. That one I use quite a lot. I find this wears off a little bit more than these, but they both do a beautiful job, and it's quite subtle. I tend to use them in Clara Markovas quite a lot, and those I've literally had years. They just seem to last forever. And my final, most favourite, well-used item in 2022 are most definitely my Caran d'Ache blenders, the whole one and the wood one. This is how I usually use them. I have the wood one sharpened so you can do little things quite easily, and I leave the other one fairly blunt for backgrounds and big spaces. These work well with most colour pencil brands to blend or flatten, but yeah, I use them in most colourings just to flatten the look of it, to fill in little tiny holes depending on what paper. Amazon paper does it quite a bit. Sometimes even though you've worked quite a lot with the colour pencil, you've still got those tiny little white holes in it. It kind of, for me, it spoils the look a bit, so I do work over with blenders. I know the wood one's not everyone's favourite, but it does have its place. It is useful for some things. I do wish they give you the choice of buying these or these though, rather than the two together, because we're the consumer, aren't we? We want what we want. I personally prefer these over the Derwent ones, and they're easier to get than the Prisma ones here anyway. So these are the ones I use. They're the ones I reach for most of the time. I have these as well, which I never use. Burnisher. It just feels like I'm rubbing stone onto the paper. I never use those. Don't know why I've just showed you them. They just sit there in my pot. Abused and never used. And yeah, I think that is pretty much all my goodies that are my most favourite, well-used products for 2022. Some of them I've had longer than the year, most definitely. Some I've had much longer than the year and have remained favourites for a very long time. Some are a bit newer to me. Obviously the Artex were new this year, pencils and paint pens. Some of the metallic watercolours were new to me this year. The pencils, not so much. Most of those were been with me a little bit more time, but yeah, certainly all of these things I found very reliable, very useful. They're things I go back to all the time. I hope that's been useful to somebody. I'm aware I've talked for quite a long time. Again, I thought it would be like 15 minutes this video, but looking down, it's not, sorry. I hope it's been useful. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying your colouring. Thank you, bye bye.